Is where you are physically as peaceful as where you are emotionally at the top of sports, birds chirping at the height of achievement? Are you at the center of professional bliss at the moment, enjoying your championship? Thank you, Becky, so much for joining us, and congratulations.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I'm still, I'm going to milk this one for a little bit for sure. But it's always weird, after the season, it's always, whether you win or you lose, it's like going 120 miles an hour and then just a brick wall. And so it's a little bit figuring out ways to unwind and relax, but it definitely feels the best going out on a win for sure.
Is there joy around all of it, or is it winning and misery? How are you wired and how are you built? Because you've met no shortage of curmudgeons who don't seem like they're happy unless they're winning all of the games.
I'm not short on competitiveness, that's for sure. I'm very competitive. But I also feel like, for me, I don't know if it's so much as I love winning as I hate losing. It's always a delicate balance there. But I had such a special group this year that, we really came together, and it was just a fun group. I don't know how to explain it. I've kind of never been a part of a team like that, with the chemistry that we had and the skill set that we had, the competitiveness that we had. So definitely, still kind of reminiscing and reflecting, and definitely still enjoying.
In what ways, though? Because it does sound like hate losing. Explain that to us, because there's less joy in it than you want if you hate losing more than you love winning.
I hate losing. I think there's a way to lose. I think there's a way to win. And I guess, I don't know if it's equal or more, but for me personally, I'm very driven just to try to be my best that day. And sometimes it's good enough. Sometimes it's not. Sometimes you got to regroup, refocus. But I think somebody who loves winning a lot of times, it's easy to kind of rub it in other people. I'm not really a rub it in people's kind of face. I just, of course I like winning. And it's the opposite of losing. So I guess I gotta have some love for it. Because if I'm not winning, I'm losing. So
it sounds like you're a bit conflicted on the whole concept of the whole thing, because you are really accentuating the I hate losing. So take me through how unreasonably competitive you are. The people who love you would say this is everywhere in your life. You compete at everything.
Yeah, probably. If we're walking across the street, I'm probably going to try to hustle, beat you across. But at the same time, I'm not going to push you in front of the car coming down. So
not cutthroat, not quite so cutthroat as to be immoral, but you'll go right up. Right. How did you become that way?
Well, I'll tell you one thing: losing keeps me up at night, for sure. I like to be a problem solver. When we lost that game 3. I watched that film till about 3 a.m, up at 6, watch it, and just, I'm like a caged animal, in those scenarios at times. So I wish I could actually have a button to kind of turn it off, both ways, winning or losing. But I think I just grew up in a family of competitors. I mean, it was like, the clean plate club, who could finish their food first, everything was like a competition. Whether we're playing cards, my brother was an athlete, whether I was competing with him and his friends. Yeah. I don't know what line you want me to draw there, but.
Well, you wish you could turn it off? You wish you could turn it off?
I wish I could turn my mind off, yeah. My competitiveness, I guess some of my OCD tendencies to try to get it perfect all the time, can drive me crazy sometimes. And I think anybody with those tendencies, you can drive yourself crazy. And so it's finding, like sitting in my backyard, it's finding these moments where I can just kind of like, just be.
Are you applying a pressure there that's unnecessary, or are you associating with, I can't be great unless this is my fuel?
I'm watching my journey unfold. I'd say there's a little bit of pressure. I don't mind pressure. I love pressure. Fortunately for me, adrenaline works for me. Some people, it works against you. So I like those moments. Actually, it's those moments that I actually probably love the most. crunch time moments. I love playing poker. I'm a little bit of an adrenaline junkie. And honestly, retiring as a player, that was one of the saddest things that I felt was like, wow, like I'm never going to be able to hit a big shot again like that. Or like the YMCA noon ball runs just aren't going to feel the same as playing competitively. So competitive moments, intense moments, pressure-filled moments, I do love those moments for sure.
Why? How does that happen? You like the discomfort of them, or you're comfortable in the discomfort, or you see the growth in discomfort? What is it about it that, that has to be learned, does it not? You don't gravitate to that at the very beginning, do you?
I think it's something that's in you, but I also think it can be honed a little bit. I don't think you can just put it in anybody. Like it's not a skill set that you can, hey, do this and you'll learn how to be successful under pressure. You can get better at it. But for me, it's funny. I just texted that saying actually to one of my friends, being comfortable in the uncomfortable. But for me, it's more about moments. Like I said, I'm a little bit of an adrenaline junkie. I love diving with sharks, jumping out of airplanes, stuff like that. And for an athlete, be in those big moments, it's, I guess, somewhat of a similar adrenaline rush. But you don't even realize it. For me, basketball has become so instinctual to me. It's not like when I'm drawing a play at the end of the game, I'm like, oh, I have to get this perfect. I'm just drawing what I see, and hoping to God it works and they make a shot. It's not. I don't know. I guess I don't feel it as much as maybe somebody who doesn't love pressure.
Give me the other places where you're the adrenaline junkie, or your top places when you think of diving with sharks or jumping from airplanes. The places that give you the most thrill are blank, blank, and blank.
I love playing big hand in poker, scuba diving down in the Florida Keys. I actually love spearfishing. And then I've jumped out of a plane a couple times in Texas. I wouldn't say I have a hot spot for that. But I just really enjoyed it. And it was something that I felt like I wanted to do, just because I had never done it. So I did it a couple times. But I want to go cage diving with some great whites at some point, which isn't, it's going to be a little bit of adrenaline filled just because they're so huge. And then if I get, ballsy enough, maybe I'll get out of the cage.
Oh, swim with sharks. What do you like about a big poker hand?
Oh, man. I like playing the game. I like strategizing. I like the element, poker's a little bit like defense, right? And offense. You can do it all right and it still may not work out. I tell my girls that all the time, we can play defense perfectly. We do the scheme perfect, and they still might score. That's why the score is not going to be 10 to 12. So I guess that the competitiveness of seeing each card, seeing if I can gain an advantage, either mentally. Well, poker is a lot mental and obviously math. But yeah, breaking down cards. I like those moments. Win, lose, I don't know. I can get on it. I've been on some, what do they call it, on tilt a couple times where it's like, lose a huge hand and I want to throw something against the wall. I don't, but I want to.
There is so much in your control when you're a player and less so when you're a coach, even though coaching gives you the illusion of control. Do you have a moment in sports that has given you more joy than being the head coach of the WNBA champions? Or does it put you to the side where you feel a part of it, but you don't quite have the grip of everything in your hands the way an athlete would?
Well, it's definitely different. Obviously, you said the illusion of control. Those are facts. You can, in practice, obviously you're trying to build habits that become second nature, so that your athletes aren't thinking as much. So you do drills, to develop skills, drills for skills. So you can drill those things. For me as a player, I was involved in a lot of big games. I got to tell you, player or coach, that Seattle series that we had. I don't know if I've ever been a part of something like that. Obviously been in some big battles. I remember my first year with the Spurs, a series with the Clippers that was back and forth, super tense like that, just big shot makers and takers. So that was really fun. But for me, there's been a lot, honestly, on the court, whether that's, winning a game in the Olympics, hitting a big shot in the playoffs, in the final, whatever it might be. There's so many moments. They're all kind of unique in the journey and how you got there. And the situations surrounding each of those moments is kind of what makes it special and distinct, for sure.
Is there any time in the middle of the atmosphere of Las Vegas and Seattle to marvel at it, to be in the middle of it and be like, I can't believe that we built this thing? Or are you too busy in the day-to-day that there's no ability to, not even, you couldn't have imagined 20 years ago that it would feel like that, right?
No, I mean, you can't even make those scenarios up. Those are the kind of scenarios you dream up in your front yard, shooting baskets when you're little, right? I just had to happen to be the coach, but as a player, those are the scenarios you dream up. A back and forth battle or a come from behind battle on the court, and then hitting big shots. I mean, that's, like I said, you can't, it's the same reason why games are so important, because like even in practice, you can try to simulate that, but there's nothing like a game pressure with a packed out arena. You just can't simulate it. You try as a coach, but it's just different. And that goes back to, the adrenaline. It either works for you or against you a lot of times.
Do you feel like a pioneer?
Some ways, yeah. In other ways, I'm like, this is basketball. This is not rocket science. There's, I think, a lot of room for growth in sports with women still. And so I'm always going to push the line, and the ball's never moving as fast as what I want it to move. And like I said, I think there's, on the men's sports side, half the population hasn't been tapped for their minds in regards to, game planning, scheming, and eye for talent, and that kind of work.
What are the differences that you've noticed between a male locker room and a female locker room?
Oh, man. Honestly, the girls, now this is not all guys, so I'm very much generalizing. But the girls kind of have less of a wall up, I'd say. They're a little bit freer to kind of act, be who they are. The guys are a little bit more guarded. That's one difference. It's interesting enough, the basketball is pretty much all the same, but how they, I would say the girls a lot of times, and again, I'm generalizing, but I had a special group this year that, I could put someone on the board, draw something up, they've never seen it before, and they could go out and execute. Now that's a skill set, male or female, it doesn't matter. That's a skill set that this team had. And one of the teams I've been a part of to do it at the highest level, male, female, doesn't matter.
Easier to reach women because of that openness than, again, generalizing, than men?
Yeah. Here's the funny thing, Dan, have you ever been on like a fishing charter?
Yeah.
And the guy, so if you went and asked a fishing captain, he'll tell you girls are easier to coach than men, because men just want to get in there. They want to like show how strong they are. They don't listen well because they just want to get on the rod and just start beast moding that fishing. And so I'd say that the attention to detail and maybe some listening skills. And again, like I said, it's not, this is very generalizing, because I've been a part of and coached some guys that their attention to detail was impeccable. So I think it just comes down to the individual athlete. But I would say I did a little less repeating of myself with the ladies. I mean, there's no knock. Whoa. Sorry about that.
Well, you don't have to be that careful. I understand why you're doing it.
A bat just fell. I don't know. An aluminum bat. My kid's bat just fell out of nowhere. So I don't know where that came from. But anyways.
You're being very gentle to the men. You're being very gentle, but you are. You're saying you're general. It sounds like it's just easier to coach women, though.
Different. It's a little different. I mean, look, the design and the makeup is different. I'm not one of those people who are going to be like, now they're athletes and they're competitive, both sides. And again, that goes down to the individual athlete as well, you know, because I've coached really, really competitive. I mean, Manu Ginobili and Tim Duncan are probably two of the most competitive kind of shooting drill. Anything that you're keeping score, they're wanting to win. And I had a group of women, you know, 6, 7 of them like that, 8 that were like that. And that's a real luxury as a coach, because again, you're paying attention more because I'm going to give you details and information that's going to help you win. So they definitely, and like I said, this team was just special. It was different. They had a lock-in factor that was exceptional in my opinion. And again, I've been a part of those. Obviously, it's different 12 inches over too, on the input that you can have. You know, I'm there to support Pop and the guys. When it's your own team, you get to say things the way you want to say them, how you want to say them, when you want to say them. You know, the assistant coaching role is different in that regard.
How much mansplaining did you have to tolerate in the world of the NBA, or how did you tolerate it, or would you not tolerate it?
What do you mean mansplaining? Explain. Exactly.
Just male dominated environments where men are used to being in charge. You're 12 inches over, and perhaps they're not listening to you as much as they might listen to somebody else because they're used to an environment where men are in charge and men rule and men explain things.
And you think that's only happening in the sports world, Dan? That happens every day in everyday life. Every job occupation is the world we live in. It's just the way it is. Pop, obviously, with the guys, he sets a standard of respect. Obviously, my playing career, I think, garnered their respect before I ever walked in as a coach. You know, they knew who I was. They followed because they're basketball junkies, and many have been to the games. You know, and I think what was cool too it was across the league. You know, Chris Paul, LeBron James. I mean, I could go Damian Lillard. I mean, so many guys. Almost all of them actually had reached out at one point and just saying how happy, you know, that I was part of the NBA at some point during my 8 years. It's really, they're not, a lot of them, they're great listeners. They want women more in the mix. But there is a reality of decision makers that go above and beyond that, that maybe can't ever envision themselves taking direction or being led by a woman.
I assume, but probably shouldn't, that the pay is a lot better in the NBA as a head coaching job, and perhaps that because of the pay, that is a better job than the one that you have. But I don't think I should assume that you want an NBA job, or that it doesn't insult you to suggest that an NBA job would be better than the one that you presently have.
Well, I don't think you can make that argument. The schedule is completely different. I mean, 82 games compared to 36 games, you're talking about quality of life in there too. In the NBA, you don't have quality of life. You just don't in the NBA. You're working all the time. It's what the job requires. The job requires you to be a workaholic. And so for me, basketball wise, it's ridiculous how similar it is. I'm sorry. It just is. It's a ridiculous argument to say, this pick and roll scheme is different than this pick and roll or this zone, or it's X's and O's wise. The X's and O's don't have any gender, and that's how ridiculous it is. They're X's and O's are X's and O's. After that, maybe it gets more attention. Maybe, you know, it's something that's never been done. But to me, it's not about a better job. I had more fun this year coaching this group of women than I've had in being a player included. I can't even remember. 2007, 2008, I had a really special team in San Antonio that I was a part of. But I don't, you can't sit there and tell me it's a better job. No.
And it sounds like this one gives you more balance, even though the obsessive compulsiveness of not wanting to lose is something that you turn. I can't imagine you not being a workaholic about this. I don't know that that champions can have a great deal of balance. They can aspire to it, but the jobs are pretty all-consuming. Well,
right. It's the illusion of it, right? You try to get there, but it is hard to turn it off. You know, I haven't had this kind of, I'll say, downtime where I'm not having to watch film. I'm not having to go to practice. But you still always watch film, right? And I'm going to go over and I'm going to dip my head into some practices.
Not today. Not today. You got it. No,
not today. But I'll be going over there tomorrow. I got to hit pop up and see if I could peek my head in over there and say hello and watch her practice. But it's, I don't know. It's a blessing and a curse, I guess.
Becky, congratulations. It has at least in part helped you become a champion with the Las Vegas Aces. Thank you so much and congratulations. Good talking to you.
Yeah, thanks, guys. Take care.